Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Police Should Not Be Required to Wear Body Cameras. So, why were body cameras implemented? Number one, accountability. If a police officer has all of their actions being watched, they are less likely to use their power negatively. If everything an officer does is recorded, then it can all be saved as objective evidence in cases. Training. Body camera footage can be used to train new officers and show them what they should and shouldn't do in certain situations. The body cameras have only really been popular for about the last 10 years. We've seen like dash cams for a really long time, but body cams have not become popularized until about 2014. These were first implemented in three major cities: Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, and New York. And a big part of that accountability movement that we talked about stemmed from one incident where an unarmed 18-year-old African American boy, Michael Brown, was shot by an officer by the name of Darren Wilson. This is where the popular statement, hands up, don't shoot, was popularized. We heard that a lot with Trayvon Martin, also with George Floyd, in cases like that. We heard that a lot at the rallies. Michael did not survive the shooting, and a grand jury made the decision to not indict Darren Wilson, that officer. So he was not charged with anything. So a big part of that, after that, when Barack Obama was in office, he made a big movement to try and get at least half of the cost of these body cameras covered for police departments. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So the reason these body cameras were implemented are quite clear. However, the unforeseen potential for selective recording, privacy concerns, and substantial costs associated with their use raised significant doubts about whether these purported benefits truly outweigh the negatives. The cost of body cameras. Implementing and maintaining body cameras incur substantial costs for law enforcement agencies. Beyond equipment expenses, the burden of data management, maintenance, and unpredictable technology-related issues strain departmental resources, potentially diverting funds from essential policing needs. For example, the most popular body camera that police use, like I said, is an Axon body camera. Just the cost of the camera, that's not including like the accessories needed to put it on the person, range from $500 to $700. Additionally, these batteries have to be replaced every 3 to 5 years, and that battery costs anywhere from $200 to $400. Obviously, that is not including the cost to store the actual footage. So I know, like for me personally, you can like buy more iCloud storage. I pay like $10 a month in iCloud storage, and that's just for like all my photos. So if you can think about it like that, think of how much they have to store in just videos of so many hours a day for so many officers. Additionally, they have to keep this footage for a really, really long time because people can be charged years down the line. And if they don't have that footage, they can get in huge trouble for that. Body cameras have cost the taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars, all while showing no statistically significant impact on officer use of force, civilian complaints, or arrests for disorderly conduct of officers. Additionally, when Barack Obama had first made that big push to try and get these cameras paid for, it was the following year, $23.2 million was distributed to only 73 different police departments across 32 cities. So that might seem like a lot of money, but that was only enough to cover the cost for, like I said, only 73 different police forces. And that didn't even cover the cost, that covered only about half the cost of these body cameras. And like I said, it's a continual cost for that storage. So even though this big push was made for these cameras, it only helped a small amount of people for a small amount of time. So this $23 million really only helped a couple of agencies for that time being. It didn't think about the cost moving forward. And many police departments, especially small departments with smaller budgets, have suspended body-worn cameras programs, citing rising costs of the cameras, maintenance programs, employees, and data storage. About 80% of large departments with 500 or more full-time officers had body cameras in 2016, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics. In comparison, only about 31% of small police departments with part-time officers did. Technology concerns. Body cameras as a technology are just the beginning. There have been strides made to pair the body cameras with facial recognition. With this put into place, it would truly turn every person the police comes across into a suspect, completely abolishing the protect and serve slogan. This is especially concerning with all the current issues these cameras have as such varying video quality and a cumbersome operation. Imagine if these same problems persisted with facial recognition implemented. Police body cameras and facial recognition technologies serve two completely different purposes and should not be combined. Pairing these two technologies turns each police officer into surveillance and building tool and completely undermines the trust building promise of the camera. It turns every member of the public into a suspect and every encounter with police into a virtual stop and frisk. This video, I cannot get it to play, so we're gonna watch it over here.
Drop the gun!
There was hope that
Drop the
putting
gun!
video cameras on police officers would reduce moments like this, helping stop abuses that have become a focus of police and protesters since the 2014 fatal shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. A new study out suggests that police body cameras might not be that effective. More than 2,000 police officers in Washington, D.C. were tracked over 18 months, half with body cameras, half without. Researchers found that those with body cameras used force at about the same rates as those without. Civilian complaints against the officers were also no different. A direct contrast to a previous smaller study that found body cameras did change police behavior.
People, they really want to know that your police department is being transparent. It's nice to have a accurate record of our interactions with the community.
The technology is now common, with the federal government giving police departments more than $40 million for the devices. Some 95% of large police departments investing in the technology. Changing officer behavior isn't the only reason for deploying body cameras. It's also about accountability in the communities that police are designed to protect. African Americans are more than 3 times as likely as whites to be treated forcefully by police. How many people think body cameras should stay, yes or no? None of you think the body camera should stay.
If you look at this study, it does not change police behavior.
We also have cell phone cameras. We've had dash cameras for years. What we have is a lack of ability of police officers to feel there'll be any consequences.
Whether or not you have a video or not doesn't bring people back. It isn't stopping them from dying. And so I think the entire conversation is a waste of time.
The question now is, will these instruments of justice work?
Don't move!
Citizens and police alike say they'll be waiting and watching.
Let me see your hands!
Morgan Radford, NBC News, Washington, D.C.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for.
So as you can see from that video, we haven't seen a large change in the effect of these body cameras. Like we haven't seen an increase in like police safety, and we haven't seen a decrease in police brutality. There hasn't really come a lot of good from this huge expense that we're spending on these body cameras. So next one, unreliability. Body cameras are easily damaged or misused, making any footage gathered useless. Also, the risk of malfunctions also divert the officer's attention from crucial tasks, potentially compromising effectiveness in high-stress situations. There have also been many situations where body cameras do not record properly or the footage doesn't get stored correctly and is lost, all while costing the taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. So I personally work in forensics, and often I have to go through police body footage, like hours and like hundreds of hours of it, in order to find stuff that's useful for the case that we're working on. And I can tell you that there is hundreds of hours where the police officer is accidentally covering the camera with his arm, or his hand's in the way, or their hair is in the way. There is hundreds of hours where that is relevant, that their camera's rolling, the footage is stored, the camera's going, but footage is useless. Or someone's talking over them, or they're on the phone. There is hundreds of thousands of hours spent and money spent on this, and it's completely useless. Next, selective and misleading reporting. Police body cameras, while intended to enhance transparency, have proven to not fulfill that singular goal. Many officers only turn on their cameras when it's convenient for them and ensure the body camera captures more than necessary, or just enough to tell a story that isn't true. After you've seen many times before, it's very easy to be misled with only a partial story. Police have done this in the past and it will always be a limitation of body cameras. The reality is that we can never know if it was done with a body camera if we are only given part of the story. So a big part of the body camera is most of these are not filming 100% of the time. A lot of that does have to do with like confidentiality, and like if the police officer is just on a break or in the bathroom, they don't need to have that body camera going. But this leaves it up to them to choose when to record and also to remember to turn on that body camera when they stop and go out for a traffic stop, if they're frisking someone, it's up to them to start and stop that recording. Privacy concerns. Body cameras capturing scenes from the officer's perspective inadvertently intrude on bystander and victim privacy, potentially leading to the Fourth Amendment violations. This indiscriminate recordings often without just cause raise questions about citizens' privacy rights and the consequences of unwarranted surveillance. There are also many witnesses or bystanders who will be less willing to assist in an investigation if they know they're being recorded, not to mention the privacy of the officer to act with discretion in situations where it is necessary. Recording police encounters with the public could lead to public exposure of private medical conditions such as mental illness. Victims of crimes such as rape or domestic abuse may be further traumatized by recordings. Informants or witnesses may fear reprisal from criminals. People being arrested may fear the damage of public exposure, such as being fired from a job. Additionally, often police officers have to go into places that are confidential, like hospitals. That is obviously recorded on their body camera. And people like me, when we have to go through this footage, we see all those people in the hospital. So this can even go into like HIPAA violations as well. Privacy laws. Law enforcement are required to wear body cameras at all times. This includes private residences, medical facilities, as I mentioned, and many other sensitive areas. The law clearly states that it is illegal to record someone in private without their consent, yet law enforcement are the exception in order to protect and serve. While law enforcement are often an exception when it comes to laws, the expectation of privacy and free expression is a constitutional right given to all citizens, and recording people in their darkest moments in the privacy of their own home was without a doubt an infringement on their rights. Body cameras just don't work. In 2017, research conducted one of the largest randomized control trials on body cameras that included over 2,000 police officers in Washington, D.C., and found that body cameras had no statistically significant impact on officers' use of force, civilian complaints, or arrests for disorderly conduct by officers. The unfortunate reality is that body cameras have no major impact on officer accountability since their inception. Many studies even found that body cameras have been used to clear officers of wrongdoings and lower litigation costs rather than hold the officer accountable. So when it says litigation costs, sometimes within a trial, there's a lot of back and forth. And with that, a lot of money is wasted hiring experts, hiring attorneys. So it has lowered the cost of that back and forth, the cost of attorneys and the cost of experts, because if there's a video, there's at least that. In conclusion, the introduction of body cameras into law enforcement has been marked by well-intentioned goals, but has also exposed complex and often unanticipated challenges. While the reason for the implementation, such as accountability, evidence collected, and officer training, appear compelling, the reality shows that the benefit has been quite minimal. Body cameras have had no real impact on officer accountability. They are exceptionally unreliable and expensive, and they are flagrant violation of privacy for the bystander and victims in their darkest moments. Body cameras are an attempted solution to a problem far too large to be solved by something so unreliable and invasive. That's the end. Thank you for joining. Thank you for coming to my show.